Welcome back, everyone, to the A.D.D. show, where we're not always right, but we're never wrong. As always, I'm Mark.
And I'm Hans, and welcome back to the show, everybody. We were going to do, if you heard from us last week, we were going to do part 4, which was going to be the NFC East and the NFC West. Some big news just dropped. So we're going to do the NFC East by itself today, and then we're going to do the NFC West in the next episode. So this is technically episode 3.5 of what we're doing. So I will let Mark take it from here.
What's up, everybody? Some good stuff going on. We got a guest, Nate, today. Everybody knows who he is, and he's excited to talk about Washington. I know he's not excited about who they tagged, who they gave the franchise tag to today. Just big money. He's a good player, just big money.
So fantastic player.
I'm interested to see what his take on that is. And then he also had a very, very cryptic text saying he's got a hot take for today's show. So I'm really interested to see what he has to say. So without further ado, how we doing, Nate?
I'm doing well, fellas. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great, man.
I know Christian's probably sitting on cloud 9 over there watching his quarterback get paid, boatloads of money in a tax-free state. Good for Dak.
Yeah,
I am happy for him, but Jesus, he won that poker hand. Good Lord. He had a straight flush. He had a royal flush. That's ridiculous.
But, yeah, I figure it's probably a good way to start the show since we're going to talk about all the NFC East teams with free agency looming only, days away.
Yep.
My thought on this season with the lowered cap is we're going to see an NFL season like no one else has ever seen before. I think you're going to see a lot of players like Kenny Galladay, players like, Shaq Barrett, should he get not re-signed by Tampa Bay. I thought Levante David was going to be part of this, but he obviously got wrapped up in a 2-year, $25 million deal to stay in Tampa. But I think we're going to see a lot of players, especially a lot of good veteran players, sign one-year deals to try to win a Super Bowl on a quote-unquote super team. So your teams that have all of this cap space, they're going to sign a lot of one-year deals. And then once the cap goes back up next year, because, with all the money coming back with, COVID hopefully, not going away, but not being as big of a problem with vaccinations, the cap space is supposed to be next year above where it was supposed to be this year. Whereas the cap went down. So I think a lot of players are going to sign these one-year deals and join these like super teams, and then next year try to reset the market again.
Okay.
Because teams are going to have more money.
All right. So my question to you is, how many of these players? Because I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think there's going to be a lot of one-year deals. A lot of one-year deals for all these free agents, and it is one of those things where I think that some of these players are going to hurt themselves, meaning they'll sign, like say Galladay signs a one-year deal and he doesn't have a good season. He's not going to get what he probably could this year. Does that make sense?
It does, but, it's the NFL. You have to bet on yourself. Kirk Cousins bet on himself, and look what he did. Kirk Cousins is a top 15 quarterback, don't get me wrong. But he was getting paid top 5 quarterback money when he signed that deal in Minnesota. Dak Prescott bet on himself after having only one playoff win and multiple seasons, after having arguably the best Dallas team around a quarterback since the 90s in his first season. And, he bet on himself, won the poker game against Jerry Jones, and now he's getting paid buku money. I do think some players are going to lose out. If Kenny Galladay or Will Fuller, these guys who have had injury histories, if they sign a one-year deal and have another injury-plagued season, sure, they're going to screw themselves. But if Will Fuller has another season like he did last year on a one-year deal,
minus the suspension.
Minus the PEDs, but he could potentially set himself up for even more money.
True.
Yeah, that cap space in a year or so is going to be ridiculous, especially with the TV contracts coming up too.
It's going to be absurd. And in 3 years, when all of the new TV contracts come back in,
and that was
which is why Dak Prescott won that deal even more, because he's going to get paid twice in his career.
Exactly, and that's why in like 2 years, this Dak Prescott deal will be more irrelevant than it is at the moment because the cap space is going to be ridiculous. Where this is going to be a top 10 contract in 2 years because everyone it's
not going to be irrelevant because his cap hit's going to be almost $55 million.
His cap hit's going to be crazy. But you're going to see this going up, and it's just going to be the league's just going to keep creating more and more revenue. The cap space will continue to keep going up.
So I've been preaching this for years, okay, and we've just started the podcast this year. So not anybody that's listening understands that. How come people are still doing this, overpaying the quarterback?
Dude,
I mean, you have a 2-decade run by Tom Brady being a top 10 paid quarterback in the league. And this is in his prime. To surround himself with talent to go after the Super Bowl. And then you go around and you see players, well, I want to have a career like his. I want to have a career like his. I want to have a career like his. No, you don't. Not a single one. Mahomes doesn't. Watson doesn't. Dak doesn't. Kirk doesn't. Like you can go on down the line. And you're looking at these players, like even Breeze, even Rodgers, for that matter. You sign these big deals and you hurt your team. Like this contract, I even signed. Dak signed. What expense needed to bring him back? You needed to bring him back, okay? Yeah. But at what expense?
Yeah.
Like your defense. I'm sorry, we've talked about it for a while. Is trash. Your defense is horrible, and it's only going to get worse because you're over in the cap.
Yeah.
You can't sign free agents.
Dallas's defense was trash last year, and a lot of it had to do with, from the first thing I noticed, was a completely different scheme than they ran for the last decade. Nothing looked right. I mean, no players looked in the right positions. Everything was wrong, and hopefully this defensive coordinator Dan Quinn can fix a little bit, but I agree with you. It's like this deal is so expensive that as soon as I saw it, I said, yay, my dude's locked up. Then I was like, holy crap. Like when you read it, it's like, Jesus, that's a lot of money. Yep. Like, and I agree with you on what you were just saying a minute ago about these quarterback contracts. We're just talking about, like, why do these quarterbacks, especially other positions too, but mainly
Wilson too. Sorry.
Mainly these quarterbacks, like Tom Brady's the only one, but all these other quarterbacks keep saying, I want to run it back. I want to get I want to go for a ring. I want to go for the championship games. Yep. But yet every single quarterback tries to get as much money as possible. And I want to know, this is a question for both of you, and obviously there's no answer, but when's the reset going to be? Each quarterback keeps going, well, I'm going to get mine. But at some point it's like, holy $40 million.
It'll take a league-wide not shut down, but a league-wide saying no.
Yeah.
Where, okay, test free agency, and not a single team offers a star quarterback, and it has to be a star quarterback.
But as long as teams keep making money and TV deals keep getting more and more expensive, they're going to have more and more money to spend.
But so, Nate, go ahead and answer that, because I have another interesting question, because Nate said that I've never said that, like, because I said Dak is overpaid and it's going to hurt the team. Dak's about Dak and not about Dallas. And I've said that about Wilson. I said that about Watson. I said Watson's going to hurt Houston. And ultimately he hurt Houston because now he doesn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah.
But Nate, do you have do you think it's ever going to be reset, or do you think since the TV money's going up and everything, just the quarterback contracts are going to go up?
So there's a lot to unpack with that question. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think that the QB market's ever going to be reset. I mean, think about it. There's no sport like football. There's no sport where so much is dependent upon one individual player. And because in baseball, you've got 9 guys that all fill up a lineup that all have equal amount of at-bats. Now, granted, your lead off and your cleanup and your third batter in the lineup are going to have more attempts and things like that. And there's strategy that goes into it, and I understand that. But when it comes to the NFL, the quarterback is your team. And it just is. The days of Rex Grossman making the Super Bowl and Trent Dilfer winning a Super Bowl, I think are gone. I really do. I mean, Joe Flacco was kind of the last of that regime. Do I think that there's still going to be times where a Jimmy Garoppolo gets there? Yeah, I do think Jimmy Garoppolo is also an above-average NFL quarterback. Has he had the opportunity somewhat, but he's also been injured and he sat behind Tom Brady. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. There's never going to be a quarterback, though, that is willing to do what Tom Brady does, because no quarterback is married to a woman that makes more than he does as a quarterback in the NFL.
She makes a lot.
Right,
of
Tom
money.
Brady can afford to do that because his wife makes double what he makes.
Let's be fair though. When he started this, they weren't married. Like when he was in his prime, like they've only been married for 10 years.
I think they were married before his first contract.
Forget that Tom Brady set the QB market not once but twice.
Yeah.
To which he then took a pay cut for, but he did set the market twice.
And
that's how Ben Roethlisberger got the deal that he got.
Right,
now, Brady took a pay cut, and I get that. But
yeah, and that's like the thing. Like even with Tampa this year, he's restructuring his contract so they can bring back a David, so they can bring back a Shaq Barrett. And this is what I'm saying. Like it's like Russell Wilson. That Seattle team was ridiculously good.
Oh yeah.
Are we all in agreement?
Yeah.
That defense was all-time great, and they had a window, and all Wilson had to do was get paid, but not get paid. Does that make sense? Like you're a second round pick, you're not getting first round pick money, sort of like what Dak was, and then you sign like a 2-3 year deal for $20 million instead of signing a 5-year like $38 million, and then you have to let go your whole defense.
Right, but in the same breath, Russell Wilson was never the long-term plan in Seattle. He was a third-round pick. Their plan was Matt Flynn. People forget that.
I love Matt Flynn
to be their quarterback after what he did after Aaron Rodgers got hurt.
Yes.
They paid Matt Flynn. Their plan was to win with Matt Flynn, and he lost the QB battle to Russell Wilson. And nobody, if people thought Russell Wilson was going to be what he was, he would have been a first-round pick. That's how the NFL works out sometimes. Same thing with Dak Prescott. Nobody thought Dak was going to be this. I mean, Daniel Jeremiah, I just saw this tweet resurface. Or not Daniel Jeremiah, it was Colin Cowherd, said that Dak Prescott has a place in the NFL as a backup tight end when he got drafted. I think Dak Prescott has kind of silenced everybody and said, hey, I'm actually a top 10 quarterback. And you can argue that I'm top 7, maybe. And it's one of those things, Mark. It's like, you look at Dallas, right? So Dallas, they went from Troy Aikman to 5 years, from 2001 to 2006, where they had that guy, his first name was Quincy, I can't remember his name.
Quincy Carter.
I would say Carter.
Yeah. Then they had Vinny Testaverde for a year. Then they had Drew Bledsoe. Then they had Romo for 9 years. Then they had Dak Prescott. You look at a team like Green Bay. They've had Brett Favre, and then they had Aaron Rodgers. These teams that have had quarterbacks, I mean, as a team that hasn't had one, honestly, I'd pay whatever I could get to get a taste of that. And I think that that's the problem in the NFL is these teams get so starved for this quarterback that can just not be competent, but just do a little bit extra. Because teams have seen that the competent quarterback play, Kirk Cousins is the prime example of this. Kirk Cousins is one of the most intelligent quarterbacks in the league. He makes smart decisions, very rarely makes bad mistakes. He had a fumbling problem one season, and everybody likes to harp on that. But he's thrown for over 4,000 yards basically every season he's been a starter, almost 30 touchdowns every single season. And what has he won? One playoff game.
Yep.
You have to be elite. You have to be superb at the quarterback level, and it's hard to do that. I mean, people were bashing Buffalo for drafting Josh Allen. I, at the beginning of this last season, said Josh Allen is a bust. And what did he do? Sometimes it takes time, and the problem with the NFL is there's no time anymore.
I think,
and we're in an era where quarterbacks rule everything. They run the organization now, especially after seeing what the NBA players can do.
Right.
You don't think that the NFL is going to try to mirror themselves after that to make their most money, to go where they want to go?
So
it's going to happen.
So to add to that, I think what's interesting is that used to be a point when you got a quarterback, right? And then after they provided a win for you, let's use like a Tom Brady, for example, or even Joe Flacco, for example, or Patrick Mahomes, for example, you pay these quarterbacks. I think it's seeing more and more now, at least with me, is I see the potential for Dak Prescott. I can see the potential. I'm not saying Super Bowl like type quarterback, but you can see the potential's there. And I feel like we flipped it now to where teams are paying for what we hope you can do for us, which unfortunately is a bad marketing like that. Dak just got paid for we hope you can get us there. whereas he hasn't yet. Does that make sense? And that's what all these quarterbacks are going to be. That's what Baker's going to be. That's what all these other quarterbacks down the list are eventually about to be, is paying you for, we hope you get us to the promised land when we wish you did it in your rookie deal. But unfortunately, like Nate just said, it's a short window. And I mean this. I didn't want Dak to get paid what he got paid, right? But this is the thing, is if you don't sign Dak, where do you go from here? And that's the next situation where, like, it's a short leash. And I think teams are starting to understand, like, if you have a couple-year window, you should take it. Even if it's a crap ton of money, take the window and see what you can do, because, I don't know, I just think these deals are ridiculous. And I think Nate made a really good point there.
So to piggyback on that and then go into Dallas, okay? So, again, I said they just signed Dak. To what expense? Needed to bring him back, but the number is huge. So now you can't rebuild or add to your defense. You have a lot of free agents that it looked like they were like substitutes, like not starters, but they weren't big name guys. But the secondary, you're losing 3 guys.
You're leaving
linebacker
Woods,
core and Rhodes. Your linebacking core, you're losing 3 guys. Your defensive line, you're losing 2 guys if you can't re-sign them. But how can you re-sign them when you're minus $1 million in the cap?
Well, what you do is, that's when you come forth with the couple players that do end up walking or not, is you hope you have a good draft. Now, I'm just spitballing here, okay? I'll let you talk and say. But you hope you have a good draft. And on top of that, this is when you come to players like Zeke, who signed an absolutely ridiculous deal. You come to players like these up, and hopefully they take these, what you want to call it, restructuring deals. I know DeMarcus Lawrence already talked about doing it. I know that was reading the other day about Jalen Smith was talking about restructuring to 1 year less and giving more year in the 4th year of his deal. So, like, the hard part is like, you make this crazy deal, but it's like, hopefully the other teammates come together and say, we want to make this defense better, but it's not about the team anymore. And I agree with you. They need the most money. They need to rebuild this defense. And when you look at it on paper, how are they going to do it? You can't win off
realistically,
offense.
they were 1-4 last year with Dak, correct?
And every game was within a field goal.
And yes, every game was within a field goal. But
they should have been 0-5.
Exactly. The only game they won was because Atlanta forgot they could jump on the ball.
Well, that's right. No, I'm not disagreeing with you. It was ridiculous.
So I agreed with, and again, the money, I'm not going to get into the money. Everybody understands how I feel about paying quarterbacks. I don't agree. I don't agree in paying Dak that much money. I understand that you needed to bring him back for your fans, for the franchise. You needed to bring him back. But you have now gone and you can't get deeper on O-line. There's a huge free agent market for offensive linemen this year. You could have easily upgraded offensive line, which is always hurt for you. Your defensive line is suspect at best. They're undersized, and there's a lot of players out there. Like this free agent market this year, the names that are not being franchise tagged and that are becoming free agents this year, and just today, is huge.
Yeah.
And for me, I just look at it as, you had to bring them back, but at what expense? Like, because you're not Super Bowl contenders with this roster. And I don't think you can add enough with the money you have, or take enough restructured contracts, because I don't think Amari and Zeke are going to say, yeah, we'll restructure after what you gave Dak. No, we're
you got to remember, we have the number 1 paid running back, wide receiver, and quarterback now.
Right. And I don't think they restructure. I really don't. I don't think they're that type of players.
No.
So I could be wrong. But at the same time, how much money does that actually save you to actually go out and get some of these names where the bidding war is going to be huge, where like the top teams for bidding right now, there's only one team in the NFC that is above 20 million. 2 teams above 20 million. That's the 49ers and Washington. Everybody else is in the AFC. And the AFC, the top 5, it's the Jaguars, Jets, Patriots, Colts, and Bengals. And I tell you right now, the Jaguars and the Bengals will overpay for offensive line and defensive line.
Yeah.
Because they can. Does that make sense?
Oh,
so
absolutely.
It's like, who's going to be left if you restructure these contracts and can go?
Veterans, and hope you have a good draft.
But if you're a veteran, is this a Super Bowl caliber, like Nate said in the beginning, where people are going to sign these 1 year maybe team-friendly deals. Is this a Super Bowl roster?
No, it's not. Not the way it's constructed at the moment, but here's the other benefit. I'm not saying it's a benefit. Dallas has never had a problem bringing in veterans because it's Dallas and being in Texas with the income tax. I know that sounds ridiculous, but when you're signing a veteran minimum deal, that does come to benefit. Like Everson Griffin, Quinn last year on the line. I think we had Poe on the line last year too. All of them over 33, 34 years old, all one-year deals. And I'm not saying they're going to attract more free agents than Chiefs or Tampa Bay will, but it's like I assume, and I'm going to take a gamble on this like most teams do, having your quarterback locked up is a more successful thing for ticket sales and success. Having a decent quarterback locked up is better than having a decent locked up defense. Now, I'm not saying I agree with that, but you have to have that position solidified, and I think they probably thought if we franchise Dak, that costs more this year than signing him, but signing him is going to cost us more in 2 years. So it's like, I think Dallas in this situation was screwed either way. The deal needed to get done last year, and it didn't. And I like that he's back. I don't like the number. I'm happy for him that you managed to steal this much money from the Cowboys. To go for it. Good for you, Brock Osweiler. Congratulations. But it's like, at what cost? And I agree with you. At what cost is this going to cost Dallas? Because that defense was putrid.
Right.
I'm just hoping it was a scheme issue, but I don't think it was.
So I think, Nate, you can agree. This is probably going to be a very exciting offense.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to score 30-plus. They're going to probably score 32 points per game. They're going to be insane.
Yeah.
But they're going to give up 35. I mean, it's I wish you guys could like take the clip of Christian saying, "Good job, Brock Osweiler," and just play that on replay, because it's just Dallas botched this in every way possible.
Yep.
And as a Washington fan, I am more than happy. Do I want to play Dak twice a year? No. Do I want to play that defense twice a year?
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
And am I going to get to play that defense twice a year? Yeah.
Even with Heineke, that'd be a good matchup against our defense.
I mean, the thing with Dallas is Dallas has done one thing I would say they're in the top, I don't know, 5% in the NFL when it comes to drafting over the last 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they built their offensive line. That's how they got, they found Michael Gallup, who nobody really gave a crap about, and he had a decent career with them. That's how they got Zeke. That's how they got CeeDee Lamb. That's how they got Vander Esch and Jalen Smith and all these players. But you can't just bank on the draft.
Yeah.
Working out. You can't. And Dallas needs depth on the O-line, and they need just about every position filled on defense.
Yeah.
It's one of those rare cases where I would absolutely hate to be a Dallas fan next year, because every single game you're going to be on the edge of your seat ready to have a heart attack.
Yeah. It was like Steelers a couple years back before their defense got really good. When Dallas played them, I think 3 or 4, maybe 3 years ago, that was the one game where we scored 38 points and they scored 37, and every game after they had the worst defense that year. Yeah. And the Steelers finished 9-7, I think, but every game they were in a shootout with every team they played. Mm-hmm. That's back when Big Ben could throw the ball.
Yep. Now, I will say this. Well, we can get it more into Dallas in a little bit, but
you're good.
The Giants and the Eagles, to me, are in very bad spots.
Yep.
Especially for this division. The Giants, to me, are better off than the Eagles, but they're still in. Now, that's my opinion. I'll let you guys go. But for me, it's all about, is Jones the real deal?
Yep.
Can Jones take that Josh Allen step?
The difference is Josh Allen gets better every year. He's
right,
not.
but that's the thing. Yeah. Can Jones take a step and be better? This is an interesting question I have for you guys, and once I finish with the Giants, I'm going to ask this question and then let you guys go. They don't have a lot of money.
Nope.
They just franchise tagged the defensive tackle Williams. Had 11.5 sacks last year. Beast. He said he wants to stay, but the money just wasn't working out, so that you could see a long-term deal coming here. But it's a dangerous offseason for the Giants because they're minus $11 million. So you're going to be restructuring and letting people go.
They got less money than Dallas does.
Barkley's coming up. Jones is going to be coming up. Ingram is coming up. And you're looking at it as, is it time to trade Barkley while you can get something for him?
Do you want Nate to go first or me?
Whoever, like, that's my thing, because, like, they're going after wide receivers in free agency and in the draft. They're going to try to help Daniel Jones on the offensive end, because as Sterling Shepard isn't a number one, he's a good piece, but he's not a number one. Ingram's very good. Barkley can't stay healthy, and that O-line isn't very good for Barkley to run through. They're better off with a different type of runner than Barkley. But at the same time, Barkley's such a talent, but he can't stay healthy.
I think I'll go really fast and let Nate go, since he's the guest. Let him talk a little more. I think it strictly, to me, depends on their success this year. If they end up popping off 8+ wins, 8-9 wins somehow, then I would absolutely say Saquon needs to stay. But if they end up being a 2 or 3 win team, like I think them and the Eagles could possibly both be this year, maybe 4 wins, I think you have to. I think you have to try to get to for a first and a second form or something to help rebuild this team. I think you're better off with a top 20, 25 running back somewhere in free agency and focusing on, is your quarterback your guy, or is this team going to implode in a year and look like the Eagles? And you get rid of your tight end, you trade Ingram, you get rid of your quarterback, you get rid of your running back, and you just start new. Because I think the Giants were on this high of what the Eagles were. But the difference is theirs was short. I think it was a quick peak, and they're already on their way back down.
Well, no, think about the Giants, though. The Giants were in contention to win the division.
I know.
Until probably week 15.
Yeah.
I think
it was week 17.
Week 17. So
they
came down.
Won the division if we lost to Philly.
You know, so like I look at it as, if Jones can take a step and Barkley's healthy, this coach has them playing. Okay, does that make sense? And you just have to hit on the draft.
Oh, of course.
But this is such a dangerous offseason.
That's the
because
thing.
if you miss in the draft or you miss in free agency and you don't take that step forward, because I'm telling you right now, Dallas, with that offense, can win 7 games this year. 7, 8 games. Washington, we'll get into them in a little bit, but if they hit at a quarterback, that's a 8, 9, 10 win team easy. And Philadelphia's trash.
Yeah, they need a lot of help.
Okay, so the Giants were close just by being coached up.
Yeah.
So if they can take that step, and Barkley is, I just don't know. Like,
yeah, I think they need to be. I'll let Nate go in 1 second. I think borderline. The Giants are gonna have to be up there like they were this year. Another solid year, but you're gonna have to see improvement from all positions on the field. I'm not sitting here saying they can't be good. They did have a better record than Dallas. I understand that. What I'm saying is they had Saquon out, and I'm using the Dallas comparison with leading the league in IR and not having Dak. But you got to remember, the Eagles are here at the bottom. The Giants and the Cowboys are chasing DC, and it's all about what position does the Giants come in? Because if they're going to be coming in third, or fourth, this looks like a much different team going into 2022, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But if they're ahead of us in second on the tails of DC with 9 wins, that might be a really good looking offseason for them, where they might be like, okay, we got something going. So what do you think, Nate?
I mean, in my opinion, look, the Giants they're in a precarious position because of their offense. It's not because of their defense.
No,
they
not at all.
had no choice but to tag Leonard Williams until they can get the money right. And he's already said he wants to stay in New York. He started his career with the Jets, came over to the Giants last year, or the year before. They tagged him last year, and they tagged him again this year so that they can get a long-term deal done once the cap rises. They're both in agreement, and that's what's going to happen. The Giants' defense was actually pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean, people forget what they did to the Buccaneers. I mean, Tom Brady did everything he could to try to win that game for Tampa Bay, and their defense was like, nah, not today. I mean, James Bradbury is probably one of the top 5 cornerbacks in the league. They got Logan Ryan. They have Blake Martinez. They have 2 great pass rushers.
Yeah, they do.
Their offense is the question here. And I think a lot of their offensive questions, I think last year Jones could have taken a bigger step forward had Saquon not gotten hurt. The problem was when you started the season, they played Pittsburgh in the first game, right? Pittsburgh held Saquon to like 9 yards in the first half because their offensive line was piecemeal.
Yeah. And
it was all kind of brand new except for Hernandez and Soldier. And They were kind of trying to figure it out, and they had moved people around all offseason to try to figure out what they were going to do on the offensive line, and they didn't get it together. And in my opinion, trading Saquon Barkley on his rookie deal is – I'd rather personally, if I was the Giants or a Giants fan, this sounds terrible to say, but running backs, they've become a dime a dozen in the NFL. The NFL doesn't care about that position. I mean, they do because it helps you win games, but
that's why it blew my mind.
That position, unless you're Alvin Kamara or Derrick Henry and you're just built different.
That's why it blew my mind that Dallas signed Zeke in the first place.
I mean, I would I would extend him to his 5th year and just run him until he can't anymore.
DeMarco Murray 2.0. Run him into the dirt.
That's exactly what I would do.
Yep.
And, who's to say Saquon doesn't pop off for the next 2 years and is deserving of a deal from New York? Yep. I mean, Saquon has to be – it's like we said about Dallas for years where the offense has to run through Zeke. Well, I think we figured out last year that the offense needs to run – balanced in Dallas because they have too many weapons to not get the ball into your receivers.
We need to be more balanced this year. It have to
be.
The
Giants don't have that.
No.
Sterling Shepard, like you mentioned, is not a wide receiver 1. He's probably a fringe wide receiver 2. He's a great third down wide receiver because he's going to catch the ball.
Yep.
But he's not dynamic after the catch. Evan Ingram, on the other hand, is amazing after the catch. The problem is he just doesn't catch the ball. I mean,
you're right. You're not wrong.
Passes.
Yeah.
If I was the Giants, I would 100% double down. I would try to trade the offensive lineman that they're trying to trade, Zietler, right now. I would try to get whatever you could for him because this draft is loaded with interior offensive linemen.
Yeah, it is.
I would try to – I would – whoever fell to me in the draft, whether it was Waddle, Smith, Jamar Chase, or Kyle Pitts, that's who I'm drafting if I'm the Giants. I'm restructuring whatever deals I can to get just enough money to sign somebody like a Curtis Samuel, or they need another. They don't need just a straight up wide receiver. They need that weapon X type player.
Yes.
They need somebody that can give you, because Saquon's great out of the backfield, but Saquon's gonna, if he runs a route, he's gonna get a linebacker and a safety over him because they know that Sterling Shepard's not gonna get it done.
They need somebody that scares corners. They need a McLaurin. They need somebody like that kind of caliber.
That's going to break the top off. Will Fuller honestly makes a ton of sense for that offense.
What would you think of so Will Fuller? I agree. What do you think of like a Marvin Jones,
Corey Davis?
Corey Davis.
If I was them, I would prefer Marvin Jones over Corey Davis simply because he's going to be cheaper and they're stuck. They're going to get their cap space correct. I'm sitting here looking at it right now. I mean, they're $11.286 million under.
Yep.
Every team in the NFL. I mean, I don't know how the Saints are going to do it because they're $58.718 million below. But I mean, the Giants, they're going to get above the cap, and then whatever they sign their player to, it's going to be a backloaded deal. It has to be.
Yep.
Or it's going to be one of those 1 year, let's see what we can do deals. But honestly, if I'm the Giants, the quarterback to me is just mind-numbing because you watch Daniel Jones run a 50-yard touchdown.
Yep. Tackle himself.
Watch him scramble and then fumble on his own or tackle himself.
I think for me, in a nice way, the worst part about Daniel Jones is I get so many glimpses of Josh Allen, but then I get hella amounts of glimpses of Eli Manning and Jameis together. He's very up and down.
With Eli Manning, as everybody should know by now, I hate that family. I hate Eli. I hate Peyton.
That's why I said
Archie.
Eli's name.
I hate them all.
I love this.
Eli Manning is undeniably he put together two of the single greatest playoff performances a quarterback has ever put together.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And I don't even think he knew what he was doing.
Nope.
I think he was just there, mouth breathing his way to a Super Bowl. But when he won those two Super Bowls, what did he have? He had a top 5 defense.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he had 2 targets. Daniel Jones, he needs 2 legitimate targets. If I was Daniel Jones, I wouldn't want to throw the ball at Evan Ingram.
No.
Because every third pass, he drops it.
Yeah.
Sterling Shepard can't stay on the field.
Yeah, it just...
Darius Slayton can't stay on the field.
I think...
Everyone thought that Darius Slayton was going to be the guy that could take the top off the defense. Well, where was he this year?
Yeah,
I
think a lot for me, it's not that Daniel Jones doesn't have the abilities or anything like that. It's just what I keep noticing out of him is I just see aired throws that sometimes are just overthrown to the wide receivers, which could always sometimes be the wide receiver's fault. But I'm also seeing a lot of times where he doesn't hold on to the ball. He's turning the ball over like crazy, which is a lot of times why their defense is not keeping offense off the field, because he turns the ball over with a fumble or an interception at the 50-yard line. I think a better weapon would allow him to be more comfortable to put that ball farther downfield and have somebody he can trust 20, 30 yards down in the corners, you know what I mean? And they don't really have that weapon because when Ingram is wide open, so many games it was right in Ingram's chest and just dropped it. When he does catch it, he's a top 5 tight end in the league. But the problem is it's hard to call him that because he can't catch the ball.
I mean, to be honest with you, as a Washington fan, I'm deathly terrified of the fact that Philly's at pick 6 and the Giants are at pick 11, because I know for a fact that pick 10, the Cowboys are taking defense.
Yep.
They're taking whatever best defensive player falls to them, whether that's Michael Parsons, whether that's Caleb Fairley, or whether that's
Patrick Surtain.
That's
who I want.
That
yeah,
guy.
They're going to take,
Philly or the Giants are going to end up with either Pitts, Smith, Waddle, or Chase, and that just I hate that.
Unless Pitts is gone before that. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, he's right.
The latest mock draft I've seen is the top 4 picks are quarterbacks.
So you guys get anything you want.
That's not going to happen.
I don't see that happening.
The last time 4 quarterbacks went in the top 5 was like 1999, I think. It's just I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't either.
I think what's going to happen is teams like Atlanta and Detroit, they need to trade back. They need to get as much capital as possible.
Yep.
I think 1 and 2 you'll see quarterback. If someone at pick 3, if I'm the Dolphins, you don't take a quarterback. You take.
Well, the mock draft was they traded with Carolina.
Carolina has pick 7 though.
Yeah, but Miami traded down and got an extra pick and got 7, and the Carolina moved up to 3.
Carolina took that Zach Wilson kid. Or
no, Fields.
They took Fields. Yeah.
Wilson's going number 2 overall of the Jets. There's no doubt in my mind.
And so that brings me to, so let's not do, but the Eagles.
Save some time for the DC at the end.
Okay, so the Eagles, the rebuild starts now. You need to get rid of every veteran you can to get draft capital.
Oh, yeah.
You need to understand that sort of like what the team that plays basketball in Philly did. Trust the process. Mm-hmm. Get rid of every single person, have a bum team, and realize you're going for more.
And still lose in the second round of the playoffs.
But the thing is you can't say they're good at drafting.
They're horrible at drafting.
Where Dallas, like Nate said, you've drafted a lot of good talent.
Oh yeah.
Let me rephrase that. Philly is horrible at drafting offensive weapons.
Yes.
Jesus,
so that's why I feel like when you said they're going to get one of these guys, I feel like they're not. I feel like they're not that competent.
They're going to take a second round interior lineman at pick 11.
And I understand you're going with Jalen Hurts. The owner said we're going with Jalen Hurts. This is it. Matthew Berry has said Jalen Hurts is going to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback, blah, 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 blah.
Who's he going to throw to?
It doesn't matter. He's going to run.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
And so it's, but I look at this team and Zach Ertz, you're not going to be able to get a lot for him.
No.
Not what you could have gotten last year. Dallas Goedert, you can probably trade him for some pieces.
Trade both of them though. You need a tight end.
I'd keep Dallas Goedert if I'm them. He's younger.
So you keep Goddard, but
he's on a rookie deal. So I keep Goddard. But if they traded Ertz last year, they could have got a second.
Yeah, they're not getting that this year.
Whereas what was it? The talk, like the scenario you saw, where I saw it too, where the Bengals have been in talks to trade back, to swap picks with Philly and give Philly a 4th round pick. And we get Ertz.
Yeah, and you're still going to be able to get Sewell at pick 6 instead of pick 5. You're
Right.
moving back one spot.
So
It's really not a bad deal. That's actually a really good deal.
And like I said, I go, you're giving up your fourth round pick for Zach Ertz on a 1-year deal. Mm-hmm. Where it's sort of for him, it's a prove me deal.
He's a hella good weapon.
Is he
Burrow.
going to be somebody that can get, another contract, or is he going to be out of the league after that year?
As long as, if that was a hypothetical deal to happen, as long as he stays healthy, that's a hella good weapon for Joey Burrow.
Imagine him and I don't know how to pronounce his name, Uzoma.
CJ Uzoma.
However you pronounce the kid who got hurt early in the season.
Yep.
Him learning from Zach Ertz, that's only going to make Joe Burrow just that much more elite.
Exactly.
But the Eagles they're $34 million. I'm rounding up $34 million under the cap, under the cap, over the cap. And you have no, and it's like you don't have anybody.
They actually have the most players under contract in the NFL right now,
and their dead cap. The dead cap, which people are going to have to explain this to me. They have $40 million in dead cap.
Yep.
That's crazy.
38 of it is Wentz.
Yep. And then they're paying Deshaun Jackson.
Yep.
I just don't understand. Somebody's going to have to explain to me how the dead, because I don't understand why they're paying dead cap for somebody that they traded.
Go ahead, Nate.
I understand, if you cut them, you'd get the dead cap money, but I don't get the trade. I don't understand why you have to eat that much money for that for the trade.
If they traded him before the season ended, they would have zero money owed to Carson Wentz. But the problem is when you sign a deal in the NFL, there's X amount of guaranteed money, and then there's X amount of that guaranteed money that has to come from the team that you signed the deal with.
Okay.
It's a way to it's part of the collective bargaining agreement to ensure that teams can't just wheel and deal players
without a penalty.
Yeah, it's basically making sure that it's player security. All that it is.
Okay,
all that it is.
Yeah, I wrote down.
I negotiate there. I'm like, all right, I'm trading you Wentz. You got to eat some of this dead cap. You got to give me $10, $15 million.
Because in the NBA, they can decide how much to eat.
What they got for Wentz after everything that they went through.
Yeah,
asking for 2 firsts.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
Christian,
no, you're good. I interrupted your guys'. I didn't know we were still talking about that. I wrote down very simple for the Eagles. I wrote down one little sentence, and it was, Jesus, they need everything. That's what I wrote down, because they really do. Mm-hmm. Me and Nate know this. As much as we love the NFC East and as much as we hate all the other teams in the league, watching the Eagles was embarrassing. And I'm not saying my team wasn't either, but what I'm saying is it was embarrassing the fact that you have a decent head coach. You have decent pieces that are good starting pieces, but it's I just see a lot of incompetence with this team, and it bothers me. Go ahead.
No, it bothers you. I have a question for both of you and for me, because they sold their soul for the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Okay, they sold their soul for the Super Bowl, and everybody knows this. And the fall came fast and furious.
Yep.
Okay, but would you, as a fan of Washington, Nate, as a fan of Dallas, and me as a fan of the Bengals, so I'll answer this question first. Would you rather have a Super Bowl win and then the fall come fast and furious and have to rebuild and know that you're going to be bad for a few years before the rebuild is actually can take place? Or would you rather be consistently good or consistent all the way around and not win a Super Bowl and still have to do a rebuild?
You said you're going to answer first?
My answer is I'd want that Super Bowl ring.
Yeah,
I want my team to sell their...
You're also a fan of a team that's been there but never won it.
Yes.
I did never get to see my team win a Super Bowl. Let Nate go second. But for me, I am going to go with the very simple answer you did. Absolutely. I would sell my team's soul for a Super Bowl, because you can have years and years of success and never know if you're going to make it. Let's pull the Bengals from about a decade ago, the full decade they had Andy Dalton. That's kind of, I guess that's kind of what you're a little bit better than they were. The playoff every year, maybe a first, second round exit, whatever. No, I would sell everything for a Super Bowl. If it happened this year, Dak's gone, Zeke's gone, Amari's gone, whatever. Let it go. Because the money you bring in, no offense to what Patrick Mahomes just got paid, The money they paid Patrick Mahomes means nothing right now. That Super Bowl paid them so much more money than his contract that it's not even funny.
Yep.
So, to answer your question, I think Nate would probably say the same thing. Absolutely. I would sell my soul for a Super Bowl if I was if I was Dallas owner. I would do anything I could.
Nate?
I think I'm in a little bit more of I'm in a different position than you guys. I just realized this. You guys, both of your teams have had success.
Yep.
Especially in the last 2 decades.
Yes.
I mean, Dallas has won the division. Philly's won the division the most amount of times because they won it so many times between 2000 and 2008.
With McNabb.
But Dallas has won the division more than the Giants and the Washington football team. I mean, you guys have had more playoff berths. I've only seen in my lifetime, this was my 6th playoff berth.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've only seen one. I've only physically seen one playoff win because the other one happened in 1999 and I was 4. I don't, who knows? But it's just, honestly, as much as I want to see a Super Bowl, we've been to 5, we've been to 3,
you want to see a couple years of success.
Enjoy some consistency and watch my team build. And I think that's what Washington's doing right now. But in regards to Philly, they had never won a Super Bowl. They had never even been to a Super Bowl.
No, they had.
Went to one.
They had.
They went to one.
No, 2.
Yeah, they went to 2.
They went to one a long time ago.
They lost to New England, and then they lost in the 80s.
Yes.
They had only been to 2 playoffs, and after all of the success that they had with Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb, as somebody who married into a family who is Eagles fans, they were starved for that Super Bowl win.
Yeah.
I mean, my old neighbor across the street, he used to smoke Marlboro Lights, and he would pull the cellophane pack off the Marlboro Lights just a little bit and say, "Hey, do you know what this is?" And it would be empty, and he'd say, "It's the Eagles Super Bowl trophy case." I mean, can you imagine being the only team in the division that's been the most dominant when it comes to Super Bowl wins in NFL history to not win one?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think Philly would sell their soul 3 times over to have that one Super Bowl win.
Yeah.
I also think it's hilarious that Doug Peterson and Nick Foles have a statue outside the stadium, and neither of them are with the team 3 years after they won the Super Bowl.
That's pretty. I mean, that's good. And so piggybacking off the Eagles, I want to give you time to talk about Washington. A lot of cap space. They did just tag Scherf. I'm not a fan of it just because of the money, not the player. It's the money for a guard.
Franchise tags are hard in this kind of rebuild they're at and level they're in.
The only person on their team that's a free agent besides Scherf that I would bring back is Darby. I don't know if you disagree with me on that. And then I go hard in free agency. I go after any quarterback that is available.
Yep.
I don't draft a quarterback. I go after a veteran quarterback.
I want to go when you're done.
I would say Darnold. Mm-hmm. I would even say Darnold is up there over any rookie in the draft. I even say you give away your future picks for a Watson, for anything you can do, and you use your money to get another wide receiver and a better
O-line.
Secondary.
O-line too.
O-line is decent. Their
They
O-line is
They could still use another player.
but like
depth there.
Yeah.
Your secondary was good because of how good your pass rush was, not because they were really good. If you could get a ball hawk safety that's out there or another cornerback, there's a ton of them out there right now.
So,
It's just that quarterback, though, is Heineke somebody you want to go into the season with as your starter, or is this quarterback boom or bust for this team?
So I'll let Nick.
Christian, can you go first?
Yeah, I'm gonna go really quickly. That way, the floor is all yours.
I got a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, for me, I wrote down here, and I didn't want to forget what I wrote down. Defense for this team is absolutely flawless. Absolutely flawless to me. I think they could use some depth in positions. Every starter, I'd keep just about every start on that defense. I wrote down 3 times, I love this defense because it's the kind of defense I wish we had. It's the kind of aggressiveness I wish DeMarcus Lawrence played with sometimes more on my defensive line that I see out of Chase Young and stuff like that. But I wrote down key words here. Quarterback, you can't mess this up. People are like, well, they could just figure it out next year. I don't think they can. I know you can do that, but you have to make that great move this year. If it's a Fitzpatrick and then you trade for Darnold, sure, go for it. But like your team is built, and I think they're built more than any other team in this division, that their playoff deep run is coming, and it's going to come quick. And I think they may be able to keep that Patriot success for a couple years, whether it's rings or not, 5-10 window. But I think their incline up this hill is fast. And I think they're better than they thought they were going to be quicker. And other than that, the only thing I wrote down was maybe a solid guard, but definitely a top free agent wide receiver. Has to be on that list too. You need somebody other than McLaurin to help out whatever quarterback you bring in. And with that, Nate, the floor is yours.
So I'll start with the tagging of Brandon Scherf. So he was a Scott McCloughan pick who anybody who follows the Washington football team, which I know a lot of the podcast fans are WFT fans, Scott McCloughan was one of the most controversial people that's been in DC besides maybe Bruce Allen in the last 10 years. And, Brandon Scherf was a tackle when we drafted him. We moved him to guard, and he's been lights out. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler. He was an All-Pro this year, our first All-Pro since a punter back in the 90s. I think it was actually 91, which is amazing because Darryl Green was there that whole time and never got All-Pro. But, Washington gets snubbed. But I hate the tag, to be honest with you. It's a 1-year rental, in my opinion.
Yep.
We are paying for camaraderie on the offensive line, which makes me think that Ron Rivera sees the fact that, holy crap, we were 2-5 when I said, "Hey, let's try to win this division," and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thought that we were at that position, as bad as we were, with Dwayne Haskins throwing passes to the other team just as much as he was throwing to our team, that we would have won the division and taken the eventual Super Bowl winning team to the ropes.
Their closest playoff game.
Yep.
With our 4th quarterback on the season.
Yep.
It's just absurd. And I think that that's just a testament to this coaching staff. And that's why I hate the tag, but I'm going to believe in our coaching staff. I think that Ron Rivera was given the keys to the kingdom when he signed here to be our head coach. I think Dan Snyder knew that he was going to be under massive amounts of scrutiny. I mean, they're calling for him to sell the team now after this Beth Wilkinson investigation. Either that or he gets suspended for 5 years, which is stupid to suspend an owner anyways, but still, it's a lot. And I think that Ron Rivera's done a great job. I mean, he brought in Jack Del Rio. He changed our defensive scheme from a 3-4 zone-heavy team to a 4-3 man coverage. We're going to be in your face the entire time defense. And I think that, in my opinion personally, the tag on Sheriff just says to me, our window's now. And that's terrifying because we don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
I think that I'd still stand on my podium that I would give away damn near everything for Deshaun Watson or even Russell Wilson. I mean, he is from the area. He can come home if he wants to. But I disagree with you, Mark. I think that this is the perfect draft to snag a quarterback. And what I think could happen is there's going to be a run on quarterbacks, Lawrence, Wilson, and Fields are all going to go fast.
Yep.
The one thing I don't want to happen is Washington draft Mac Jones.
Mm-mm.
But he doesn't really fit our style anyways. Ron Rivera said multiple times he wants a running quarterback. I think that if for some reason Trey Lance is there around pick 12, pick 13, you pull the trigger. You do whatever you can to move up those 7 or 6 spots, and you go get Trey Lance. And
I think that's a good
have
idea.
Kyle Allen, Trey Lance, and
Taylor Heineke.
And you have a full-on QB competition. You see what happens. Trey Lance is raw, but watching his tape, it reminds me a lot of what I saw from Josh Allen. And I've already admitted on this exact podcast that I was completely wrong about Josh Allen.
Yeah. Now, before you continue, I just want to ask a really quick question.
Yeah.
Where are you drafting?
19.
Okay. And you're talking about trading up for somebody to do a QB competition? Like, to me, that is not smart at all. For the competition, if you want to trade up because you think this kid is the real deal, okay, I get that. But to trade up and then have a competition with Allen and Heineke, like that to me is just no. Like I don't.
I understand why you're saying that, but let me rebuttal with this. Ron Rivera on every single team he's ever coached has preached one thing: competition within the team. Competition within the team builds camaraderie.
No positions
are safe. It also builds the best available player at any given time. But and when Cam Newton was the quarterback, when they drafted him 1-1 overall, what did Ron Rivera say?
I can't remember that far back.
Open competition.
Yep.
The kid came off of a Heisman and a national championship win.
Rivera always has open competitions, even when he was in.
He always has said that. The one time he didn't was last year when he gave the keys to the castle to Dwayne Haskins. And what happened? He got bit in the ass.
I honestly think that was strategic.
I don't think it was at all.
I think the owner and everybody said, this is the kid, this is who we want. And Ron Rivera said, okay, he's not, but I'll show you. And then that's how he won. Does that make sense there? Like, I don't think he won.
Is that something that could have happened? Sure. But in my opinion, I think that, Ron Rivera brought in how many different people from Carolina? He brought in Ronald Darby. He brought in J.D. McKissick. He had Peyton Barber. He had Darius Geist at the time and Antonio Gibson. He had all of these players. And he had Wes Schweitzer and Brandon Sheriff and Sadiq Charles, who was a third-round pick that they took a flyer on. And every single position that he had on our team, he said there will be an open competition except for quarterback. Do I think Dan Snyder had a part in that? Probably. But Dan Snyder's also been focusing on much bigger things, like trying to save his life.
And not go to jail?
For the last 18 months than focusing on the football team.
Well, let me ask you a question here, too, because you mentioned the quarterback competition part. And I actually agree with everything you said, which is really scary. I like Trey Lance a lot. Let me ask you this. So instead of having Allen and Heineke and stuff like that, do you, moving up, getting rid of a pick or two to be able to acquire that kid, do you like the idea of also bringing in a veteran like a Fitzpatrick to help out, to have that kind of veteran like Alex Smith was? No? You don't like that idea?
No, because you have Heineke and Allen. So you can't bring in a veteran and draft and move up in the draft and get a quarterback, because you can't have you'd have four quarterbacks sitting there, and one of them has to go by the time the season starts. At least one of them. Now I don't know if they're going to have a COVID reserve list like they did this past year or not. But if they do, then that's someplace that you could put someone like Kyle Allen. But Kyle Allen's going to get a backup job in numerous other positions in the NFL.
Yeah.
He's proven the fact that he can be a decent backup. He came in his first year in Carolina and was, 5-1 before he went on that horrible slide. He's proven that he can be a decent backup in the league. I just don't think he's a starter.
So
my ideal scenario would be not trading up, but be drafting whoever falls to us at 19. I would prefer someone like a Kadarius Toney out of Florida, and then crossing my fingers and praying that Kyle Trask falls to us in the second round.
So that
would be ideal.
So that's what I was going to ask next. Was going to be my next question is, ideally, if you don't trade out of your number 19 and you don't move up to get anybody, and those four quarterbacks are gone, what would you want the first priority to be? You want that kid out of Florida?
Whoever's there.
Okay.
We're not going to get Chase. We're not going to get Smith. We're not going to get Waddle. We're not going to get Pitts. So
if you could move up in front of the Eagles and the Giants, because one of those wide receivers or tight end is there, and all you're giving up is, say, your pick in the first and your second, would you do it?
1,000,000%, and I'm taking Kyle Pitts every day.
Without knowing you're not getting a quarterback till round 3?
Yep.
Okay. That's interesting.
I mean,
I'm not judging. I wanted to know.
Kyle Pitts, in my opinion, has the potential to be the best player in this draft.
I think wide receiver, a playmaker,
a playmaker
has to be. If it's not quarterbacks 1A, playmaker wide receivers 1B.
That's exactly right for me with DC.
I mean, in my opinion, there's no one else in free agency that I want to go after besides Curtis Samuel at wide receiver right now. Corey Davis would be nice, but he's going to demand so much money because he just had a career year.
Yeah.
Allen Robinson's off the market. I'm not trading a first-round pick for Allen Robinson on a one-year tag deal. I'm not doing that. I'm not signing Kenny Galladay unless he wants to do a one-year team-friendly deal to try to prove himself that he can stay healthy, and I'm not signing Will Fuller. There's no one else on the wide receiver market that I would want. There's no one else in the tight end market that I'm going to pay money to, in my opinion, especially when you have Logan Thomas. Is Hunter Henry a good tight end? Sure. Has he been oft injured? Yes. I don't want that in DC anymore. We've done that too many times. I've been burned too many times on contracts to players who have been hurt. We've drafted too many players that have, quote unquote, fallen to us in the draft due to injury, and what have they amounted to? Absolutely nothing. I'm done doing that in DC.
I agree. This is why we enjoy having Nate on so much, especially because being such a passionate fan, he's very educated in his craft, especially talking about his DC team. And I agree with him. I like all the moves. I think DC is in a very intriguing position. For me, I think they are. They're at number 19, which is hard to get sometimes talent, but you can hit gold. But no matter what they do, whether they move up to get their quarterback, they move up to get Pitts. Pitts would be a fantastic signing. But it's like, a draft and not signing him. But you know what I mean? I think DC is in a position where like you just said, Mark, playmaker, quarterback, which one's first, which one's second. And I think a playmaker would help, but I think there's a lot more wide receivers in free agency than the quarterbacks to be able to help this team. Does that make sense? So for me, if I was in DC's position, I would want to address my quarterback 1A, and I would want my wide receiver or playmaker to be 1B. But I think either way, if they can get either one, you take that opportunity to move up if you see Pitts is still there at 7 or 8.
I think that Washington can repeat as division champions with the quarterbacks that we currently have on the roster if we sign a playmaking wide receiver, draft somebody who can also be a playmaker with our first overall pick, or draft a stud linebacker. That's the only position on defense we need is a middle linebacker. But if we do that, I think we can repeat with the quarterbacks that we have and then focus on getting our quarterback of the future next year when we have more cap space. More quarterbacks are going to hit the open market, and there's also a good crop of quarterbacks coming out of college.
Yeah. So that's, in agreement, I do. I think there's a lot more to be said coming up soon. Like you said, free agency's coming up, and I do think you're going to see a lot of players hoping for that big deal, big multi-year money deal, and it's not going to be there. Because I think you're going to see a lot of offensive linemen taking up a lot of the cap.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of cornerbacks and a lot of, over the wide receivers and or other players. But very interesting. Next week, we're going to talk about the NFC West. Nate, if you want to join us for that, if you have anything interesting on the NFC West, you're more than welcome. And other than that, Nate, thank you very much. I hope you appreciated the time and you had fun. We love having you on.
Absolutely, man.
I greatly appreciate the opportunity. I'll come on next week whenever you want me to come on. I enjoy doing this with you guys, and I wish you nothing but the most success possible with your podcast, fellas. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you.
Bye.
So once again, everybody, that was Nate. We've had him on months before. We've had him on all the time. He's definitely, at this point, an MVP. Anybody new who listens to this, that's why we call him Nate Schefter for a reason. The man is just full of information, and we think, me and you here, Mark, that we're these sports experts. But when you hear him talk, you're like, this dude just studies this stuff all day long.
Yeah.
Has to.
Yep. He knows, but I think it's going to be interesting. This division's going to be very interesting this year.
Yeah.
And I think the next week when we talk about the NFC West, it's going to be even more because I think you see 4 teams in that division that are playoff contenders.
All of them.
4.
Yep.
And
only 1 or 2 of them are going to get there.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be very interesting.
Yep, and we'll know more about other things. Free agency will have started, I believe, already.
Yep.
And
I think it's Tuesday it starts.
I'm really excited to see what the Bengals do. Everything I'm reading, they're going full out, so I'm hoping they actually do. So other than that, everybody, have a good week. We'll talk to you next week.
Have a great weekend, guys. Bye.